everybody. I am Sapna Mahadevan, your host for this evening, and I warmly welcome each one of you to PSTV. I can see a lot of you logged in here, and first of all, thanks a lot for dropping into the live. Today, again, we are going to discuss one of the other genres in story writing and, learn the tips and the tricks of the trade, how we can be writing that particular genre all by ourselves. Yes, so do stay tuned in here. We have a lot of fun segments as well, specially curated for all of our dear viewers. And for starts, let me tell you this beautiful quote that I have read. Train your mind to see the good in everything. Positivity is a choice, and the happiness of your life depends on the quality of your thoughts. Now, I really believe in this quote here, right? It is really profound. And of course, the happiness of our life depends on the manifestation that we have, the thoughts that run through our minds each and every day. And I think gratitude is key. We always need to be thankful because every day has something or the other which is good in it, right? So if you do agree with me here, do let me know in the chat box. I already see a lot of good evenings and hellos there in the chat box. Really feels awesome. All of you joining the live here. Krishna Shivnani, good evening, Krishna. A warm welcome to all of you here. Varun, thanks a lot for joining. Yes, says Krishna. Dafia, there you are. Great. And to all the highs and the hellos, some new names there coming up. Sukleen Oberoi, hello there. Thanks for joining in again. And yes, it's really special to have a conversation with all of you people, I don't know, from different parts of the world, isn't it? Yes, I am totally excited. So let's get going now to the segment that we have planned specially for all of you people. Here it is, the Fiction Story Writing Masterclass. And of course, we all know what needs to be done here, right? We need to unleash the writer in us, have oodles of imagination. Imagination, yes, and that too in huge overloads, because today we are going to talk about a genre which is really special. Two of the mainstream genres are getting brought together, and let me tell you, these two genres are the ones that are really popular with people and with audiences. One is the magic genre, that's the fantasy one, and the other one is everything to do with sci-fi, right? So just think about it. If magic and science come together, then it's going to have a whole lot of drama, isn't it? So that's what the genre is for today. And of course, we need to have a lot of imagination. We need to stir up the creativity that we can garner within us, and try coming up with an interesting story idea which we can be developing further, right? So I'm going to assist you in your story writing process. I will be letting you in on all the details of quintessential elements that you need to think about while writing your story, how you can make your story plot interesting, what are the different elements that you can introduce into your story to keep your audiences really glued on to your story, right? And of course, the thrill of writing from your own imagination is something which really cannot be expressed. Yes, so whenever we see something that we write, even if it is a really short piece, but if we write something and read it out to our friends and family members and get a little bit of an appreciation, then doesn't that feel really special when you can stir up your imagination and come up with all of those things? Yes, so yes, there are thumbs ups coming up here, a lot of hello messages again. So a big wave of hi to each one of you there, and let's move ahead to the coming up segment. And as always, we have all of these familiar sections planned for our audiences for today. So as I told you, we have the essentials, the plot building pointers, there is the synonym segment, there are going to be icebreaker questions that will keep coming up onto my screen here, and then of course there is a recommendation of the day. The guess the movie is one of the fun segments that we have planned there, and towards the end we also have the crossword segment, right? And after that, before we just wrap the show, I'm going to give you a quick refresher of all the insights and the learnings. And Yes, it'll be a wrap, and then I'll be meeting you tomorrow, right? So these are the elements that we have planned for today's episode, and I'm going to um, let you in on the first icebreaker question for the day. Here it is. Mm, yes, so what's your favorite cartoon movie? That's the first question in our icebreaker, and you can write down your answers in the chat box there. It is open for communication, and quickly type in your answers there. Sukleen Obroy, that's so sweet of you. Thanks a lot. She says she really looks up to these sessions here. Wow, I am overjoyed. Okay, great. And we really value all of your comments that we get here in the chat box. And yes, so I'm starting to get all of these comments about the favorite cartoon movies, right? So Krishna tells me Doraemon and Three Swordsmen. Lovely. Doraemon is everyone's favorite, I think, isn't it? Great. Okay, what else? Quickly, quickly, answers quickly in the chat box. Okay, so Dafia tells me Angry Birds. That's a wonderful one. We have the Boss Baby come up there. Okay, great. 101 Dalmatian. Okay. So, all interesting movies coming up there. Sarim tells me he loves watching and rewatching Home Alone. Uh huh. So, that's not a cartoon movie, isn't it? Tom and Jerry is another one that Sukleen gives me here in the chat box. And thanks a lot for all of these answers there. Some are cartoon movies, some are really not, but I'm glad that you have given me your answers here in the chat box. And with that, let me move ahead to the next segment, which is here it comes. What's the genre, right? So, the golden question again for the broader genre, we have fantasy today. And fantasy, let me tell you, is really fascinating because everything in your story or in the probably if you're reading a fantasy genre, then everything in that book stems up from the author's imagination. Yes. And it's really wonderful to see how far you can stretch your imagination and what are the different things that you can write about which cannot really happen in the real world. Yes, so if you want any of your dreams to come into reality, then fantasy is the genre for all of us, right? And with this broader genre, let's also check out what the subgenre for the day is. And I'm not sure if you have read or if you have heard this term before. It is called arcane punk fantasy, and this kind of a fantasy genre is one where the fantasy as a genre or the fantasy world, this blends with science, right? So there is magic in one hand, and on the other hand there is science that we have. So it applies to a genre, or you can say even a design. And the magic and the science are advanced enough, and most people have access to these scientific elements that we are going to talk about in the story. Of course, not everyone in our story is a scientist or a wizard, but people know how these magical items or the technologically driven elements can be used, right? So there's a blend of magic as well as science, and we are going to understand this genre in more detail, and also seek out how we can be writing a short story all by ourselves. Yes, so isn't this interesting? Do give me a shout out in the chat box there. And quickly I'm going to move ahead to the next icebreaker question. There it is. What is your favorite game to play? Okay, so favorite indoor or outdoor game, whatever you choose to play, whichever is your favorite game, do write to me in the chat box there. And for me, badminton is one of those outdoor sports that I love to play. And indoor sports, there are actually many indoor games. If I want to say, if I have to pick only one, right, then I think I would go for Uno. That's a wonderful choice to play an indoor game. Okay, so Krishna says cricket. We have cricket come up there again. Varun loves playing football. Okay, foosball is another game that we get here. Lovely. There are some indoor games as well. Snakes and ladder. There are card games come up there. Mix and match is one of the games that Dafia tells me. I think kind of maybe like a memory game, is it, Dafia? Right. So, so many games popping up there in the chat box here. Lovely to know all of these favorite choices of yours. And let's move ahead to the next segment. After this icebreaker question, we move ahead to establishing the essentials, right? So, here we are. I'm going to give you again three definite elements that are supposed to be incorporated in every arcane punk fantasy story. And all of these three elements coming up right here. We have the characters, the setting, which is imperative to any story, and of course, the drama element as well, right? So let's look at each of these elements in more greater detail. So the characters here, we are going to have a lot of layers for these characters. So you can call them as three-dimensional characters, which means that they have a lot of layers. And even with all of these layers, there are two that are prime ones, one being the hero, other being the antagonist, like in every story. But one of them must be the fellow of magic, and the other one has to be of science, right? So this is one unique characteristic of this particular genre. So if you have two prime characters there, one of them is going to be inclined towards the magic aspect, and the other is going to be inclined towards science, right? So the lead characters are they have to be followed by several companions. There can be a lot of friends and family members who add up to the story there, right? So all of these right ingredients are going to keep your story interesting. And of course, an array of characters makes for an interesting story, right? So that's one of the pointers that each creative writer needs to keep in mind whenever you have a lot of characters in your story, manageable quantity of characters, right? Then what happens is that it doubles up the interest for your audiences, right? So the boredom is actually kept minimal, and each of your pages gets turned up quickly because there are so many characters waiting up to be introduced to your audiences, right? So this was about the characters in the genre for arcane punk fantasy. We have other answers come up here. Sukleen says table tennis. There's badminton for me as well. High five to that, Sukleen. And then Krishna tells me this genre is interesting. We also have Ludo come up there. Yes, Krishna, it actually is an interesting genre because two of these genres there, which are really a major chunk of storytelling, they both have been brought together in this one, right? So this was the first element, the characters. And now for the second element, which is the setting, which is the sense of scene that you want to give to your readers. And this is of course one of the important elements. And generally we see that the scene is set in a town or a city. It can be an abandoned mansion because we are talking about magic as well. And scientific laboratories and research centers could also be the theme or the set that you can choose for your story, right? Now, lone islands or forests can also serve the purpose because, again, think about magic, fantasy, and science. So, where are all of these ingredients or all of these elements going to happen? Yes, focus on that and think about what your setting of the story should be, right? Now, after the setting of the story, we go to the third element, which is the drama. And let me tell you, this is the basis for the whole plot. So there has to be one particular element which is going to be the central theme for our story, right? So it can be love interest, there could be love triangles, maybe supernatural elements as well. And this genre, it is not limited. You can also involve mystery and crime into it. There could be inventions, which have a magical twist to it. There could be aliens and monsters also included in the term drama. And no arcane punk fantasy can be written without them. Although the major conflict in the whole plot is something different, yet these dramatic elements catch the blueprints of the main conflict, right? So the major conflict is between the two worlds, the magical world and the scientific world existing on the same plane. So it's going to be even more interesting to see how you can maybe come up with a new invention, but somehow try to connect it to an ancient prophecy, right? So this would become an arcane punk fantasy because we are talking about a scientific invention which gets connected to a magical prophecy that was maintained in the past, maybe, right? So that's what the arcane punk fantasy genre is all about. And with those essentials there, I'm sure that you would have gotten a gist of how this works. And now I'm going to move ahead to the next segment, which is the synonymate word. And the word here is rivalry, right? So now rivalry, the synonyms or similar word meanings would be competitiveness, opposition, or even strife, right? So Google up all of these words, check out the meaning of rivalry. The similar word meanings are the ones that you see written down here on the slide. And you can, of course, jot down all of these words so that you can form a repository of words for later, right? So this was the first word in our synonymous segment. And with that, let me move ahead to the next segment. And I'm also going to read out some of the comments here. Mm, there's one that I really don't understand. And then, yes, Dafia tells me that this is an interesting genre. Of course, it is. And you all understand how it works, right? Yes, so thanks a lot for all of those thumbs ups there. Lovely. So let's move ahead to the next icebreaker question. It's already popped up onto the screen there. Who is your favorite character from Harry Potter, right? Who is that famous character from Harry Potter that you love? Krishna, what's that question there? I don't get you. Okay, so waiting for some of your answers to come up here. Harry Potter, of course, that is going to be one of the answers. I thought so. Harry Potter coming up there. Who else is some of your favorite characters from all of these Harry Potter series, maybe? Okay, so her best, Harry Potter's best friend, Hermione Granger. We also have Ron Weasley come up there. Professor Dumbledore, yes. Another famous character from Harry Potter there. Great. Thanks a lot for all of these answers. And of course, one of the nicest. Okay, so Krishna tells me Snape. Thanks a lot for all of these answers. They're one of the nicest stories, right? We all went into, got indulged into this story from J.K. Rowling, right? And Sukleen is asking me a question. Is drama or problem the same? Is that what your question is? Drama is not, you cannot actually drama is not the same as problem is when there is a conflict of interest, right? A clash of interest, a conflict, when two people are thinking differently and they are going to perform in an opposite direction in the story, right? That's going to be a conflict or a problem statement for the story, yes, for which we are trying to find a resolution. But drama is going to come from all of the other elements that you're going to plant into your story, one which makes the story more and more interesting, yes. So yes, and Hermione comes up there again. Namrata Adhikari, thanks a lot for those answers there. And lovely to know all of your answers. My chat box is really filled with all of these Harry Potter characters there. And I can also see some likes come up here. Namrata Adhikari and Sushma Dahiya, thanks a lot for those Facebook likes there. And let's get going to the next segment here after that icebreaker question, really everyone's favorite, right? Now we move ahead to expert tips on establishing the essentials. Yes, the first expert tip that we have here is that in an arcane punk fantasy story, the interesting thing is that magic and science, both of these elements, they have developed together, right? So this is the genre that where you will see crystal power sources replacing coal, and glyphs replacing electricity in a device, right? So that's how this particular genre works. Both of these elements, magic as well as science, they are going to be developed together. And this makes for quite an interesting concoction, because magic and science in the devices that people use daily is something that, going to really bring that sort of a ignite for them. Yes, and therefore you can be as creative as you can, right? So stir up your creativity and think of what is that one element where you can introduce both magic and science together, right? That's how our arcane punk fantasy works. And we have SK Imran joining the live here. Good evening. Thanks a lot for asking. I am great. Hope you're good too. And we are today discussing Arcane Punk Fantasy. I see that all of my audiences here are really having a fun time. They feel that this is an interesting genre, right? So, yes, let's move back to the second expert tip that we have for today. And here, a few days back, we saw the steampunk genre, right? Where everything was related to the industrial revolution that started with steam powered machinery, right? So there the settings were limited to Victorian style, but arcane punk, you can use more any of the settings that we discussed in the first segment, where we saw what are the essentials, right? So this genre, it often takes on an old fashioned feel, but it leaves you with quite a lot of fascination. There is a whole lot of creative freedom that you can take for your world in an arcane punk fantasy novel. Yes, so these are some of the expert tips that you can try applying to your story. Apart from that, let me take you through the second synonymous word for today, which is leeway. And leeway would mean freedom, liberty, or even elbow room. That's how it is called. So leeway is taking freedom or creative liberty in writing your setting for the arcane punk fantasy genre, right? Now, moving ahead to the next segment. Here we are. The next icebreaker question. There it comes. What is your favorite flower? So do let me know in the chat box here your favorite flower. I can see that's really okay, Imran. But you can, of course, um, check the all the other episodes that we have done in the past. The videos will be available in YouTube, so even if you miss out on a day, you can definitely go back and check the episode. And Sushma, again, thanks a lot for that motivation. Full of energy and knowledge. Good to know. Really glad. Krishna, yes, this was a question that was asked earlier. Sushma tells me she loves the rose. Okay, then there's tulip come up here. Dafia, thanks a lot for that answer there. Any other flower's name coming up here in the chat box? Favorite flower? Okay, I can't see any other answers coming up here. So let's move ahead to the next segment. Here we are. We go ahead to the fun segment, which is the movie title trivia, right? So here again, I'm going to show you some pictures, and you need to guess the movie title, right? So here is the first picture for the day, and this is one popular movie. I'm sure that I'm going to get some answers there. What is Arcane is one question that I get here. Let me tell you that it is kind of, if you check for that word, then it means to be mysterious, something which is kept secretive and is understood only by a few. That's the meaning of arcane. And let me move ahead to my comments again. Imran also says that Rose is his favorite. Krishna, what are those questions for? I think you're not able to guess the movie, is it? Hermione is not the correct answer. I want the name of the movie, right? So let me bring that answer out. Imran, definitely I'll let this suggestion go to my team. And here it is. The name is Cruella, Disney's Cruella. Moving on to the next picture here. There it is. What is the name of this movie? And again, an interesting one. Yes, that is right. It is enchanted. Great. So let's move ahead to the next one. There we go. Again, a fantasy genre having all of the fantasy elements that you can think of. The Vampire Diaries. Of course, that is the correct answer. Here you go. Cinderella is not right. Okay, and then I move ahead to the next one. Another popular series which was adapted from a book. Can you guess the name of this movie picture that we are showing you on the screen? Let me give you a clue there. The book was written by Stephanie Meyer. Do I get some answers now? I know it. Okay, then tell me what the answer is. Hunger Games is not correct. Yes, the vampires, but the name is a little different. Game of Thrones. No. Okay, let me bring that out. It is Twilight Breaking Dawn, right? So those were again series of stories that we had. And then moving ahead to the next one here. Today we have a lot of movies coming up here on the screen. There you go for the next one. You have watched this movie, Imran. That's great. I have read the book though. Okay, no answers coming up here. There it is. Doctor Strange is the name of this movie. And yes, that's the correct one. I got it a bit late here. Dafia, thanks for that. And here we move ahead to the next one. This is the second last, and then we have another one going. Okay, let me check for the comments. Twilight, yes. So I think you had forgotten the name. Is it Imran? That is The Witcher is correct. Thanks a lot for that, Krishna. That is the correct answer. And moving ahead, we have the last one going for now, and there it is. Another fantasy genre. And yes, that is correct. It is Torchlight. Yes, so we have covered all of the movies that we had for today's fun segment. And with that, I'm going to move ahead to the next segment, which is again an icebreaker question, your favorite idea of a vacation. So if you have any answers for this one, do let me know in the chat box. I know some of the questions are repetitive here. Okay, so a beach coming up there, idea of a vacation, a relaxed vacation. I think I would really love to go for a homestay. Getting popular these days, right? Okay, then we have Singapore coming up there. Lovely. Disney World. Oh, yes. So much fun, isn't it? Great. So thanks a lot again for all of these answers here. Idea of a vacation. Yes. So the comment box is open here for all of you to write. There's another comment here from. So yes, I do come live every day at 6 p.m. India time, and you can join me in these sessions in YouTube. And if you're asking about the classes that PlanetSpark offers, then you might have to go to the website and book yourself a free demo. Yes. Okay, another comment coming up there. Hogwarts, Krishna, that's funny. Imran, to visit specially historical places. Yes, interesting answer there, Imran. And moving ahead, we have the next segment, which is plotting the plot. So again, I'm going to delve deeper into three important elements. Sukleen, I think your answers are coming a bit late, or I don't know if you're answering it now. We see Lily and Rose come up there. These were answers to the previous question about favorite flower, right? So many answers coming up there. Okay, great. So let's move ahead. and get back on track to plotting the plot, we have three elements again that we are going to discuss. One is the conflict or the clash of interest, the action point which is triggering the whole theme of the story, then something about the institutions and the governments, and of course the resolution, how the story ends, right? Now, hello there, Sonali. Thanks for joining in. You're a bit late. I come live every day at 6 p.m. India time. And great. Okay. So we are now going to discuss all of these plot building pointers. The first one that we have is the conflict. So again, just like we told, the conflict is going to be between these two worlds which are on the same plane. That is, one of them is the magical world, the other one is the scientific world. There could be a common enemy that both of these worlds are fighting, maybe an outsider against whom both the worlds join hands to fight against that particular alien, right? So just think about it. If there is an alien intrusion and there is the magic as well as science, both of these are brought together to fight that alien intrusion, then it's going to be a double bonanza for our story, isn't it? All of the fantasy elements, along with all of the scientific concepts, the sci-fi technology, right? All of this is really going to make it more and more interesting. So see to it that there is a common enemy, maybe, where both of these worlds are going to join hands to resolve that particular conflict. And apart from that, the second element that we have here is about the institutions and the governments. So let me tell you that when we think about writing an arcane punk fantasy, and with all that we know till now, magic and science are going to go together, right? So when we say this, right, so there has to be someone who's going to train the society to do all this stuff, right? Someone to build all of this elements that we are talking about, right? And the characters in our story, they need to learn all of the art of joining magic and science together, making a new invention somewhere, right? They have to learn this. So there you can talk about institutions who take upon this task of training people for learning the magic and the technology. And this could be one of the themes in your arcane punk fantasy. These institutions are also going to be the driving point behind the world's leading scientists and magicians, because they have trained these people, right? And because of these trainings that have happened through these institutions, only because of that, our story has that one invention, which is the central theme of our plot, right? So we can think about writing this angle in our story. And of course, not only the institution, but if you come to think of it, when such an invention can be done, right, when there is an institution who is going to train people for all of these inventions, governments need to be really vigilant about what is happening, right? Because government is going to be more and more concerned about how they can be regulating the technology and the magic, and avoid the usage of weaponizing of all of these inventions, right? So government needs to be vigilant in this area of how these institutions are coming up with these trainings, and what all can be developed with these trainings, right? So that is what we talk about, the impact of the government and the institutions, right? And this could be one angle that you're going to explore for your story. Introduce this into your plot of the story, so that it makes it more and more interesting, and there is another depth or another arc that you can be introducing into your plot, right? Now, after this element here, the institutions and the governments, let's move ahead to the next one, which is, here we have the resolution, right? Now, the resolution is supposed to be the end part, where whatever the conflict was, that gets resolved, and we get a satisfying ending to our story. And this is one integral part to the story, which each one of us are waiting with a bated breath, right? So no matter whichever the world that becomes victorious, maybe science or maybe the magic world, the story has to end on a moral ground, where vice is punished and good intentions are always rewarded. So that's what is the shout out message that needs to go into the story. And mm, Sukleen is also giving me other answers to the icebreaker question. And lovely to know that you have guessed that movie there, Twilight, right? Great. Um, okay. And moving ahead, we have the next synonymous word, which is intentions. So let me tell you that intentions has similar word meanings with aim, purpose, and objective. That means the synonyms for intentions is aim or purpose or even objective, right? With that, we move on to the next segment, which is the recommendation of the day. And this is another popular movie, Avengers Endgame. And if you have not seen that movie, then do watch out. This one here, it is a recommendation from us to you, Avengers Endgame. And with that, I'm going to move ahead to the expert tips on plotting the plot. And here is the first expert tip. What you can do for your story is you can try something mysterious without letting your audience, clearly, explicitly making that out to your audience. You can try a mysterious plot, maybe, but try not to say that it is magic. Don't say that explicitly. Try hinting it, maybe by writing about magical things. Don't give too much explanation and just carry on, right? So bit by bit your audiences are going to understand the motive behind all of those magical elements that you're going to write. And since we are talking about Arcane, it needs to be mysterious, it needs to be secretive, right? Now this also depends on how big the story is, but you can do a lot of detailing and wonders to your story by not explicitly giving out the details and the reasoning, right? Bit by bit open your layers, and that's one of the expert tips to make it more and more engaging. And now for the second expert tip, you can write about a discovery of a recent invention. Yes, so any of the recent inventions that you can think about, talk about its discovery through all of these scientific elements, give detailed narration, and then you can cross refer it with a prophecy, or which is predicted maybe 100 years down the lane. And that could be the magical hint to it, right? And turn it into something which is unnatural yet realistic, leading it into a dangerous plot twist. So that was another expert tip there. So this is a whole plot. If you want to explore it, then if that could be a one theme that your plot is going to revolve around. So talk about one invention which happens through all of these sci-fi technologies, and then link it to a prophecy or a magical element that happened hundreds of years ago, right? So rack your brains with this one, try coming up with one plot like that. And that is one of the expert tips again for writing an absorbing plot into your story. Sukleen is giving me Maldives as an option for the her idea of a vacation there. Yes, thanks a lot for that, Sukleen, and for taking the time out and replying to all of these messages there. Great. And here we move ahead to the next segment, which is the synonymous word again, and it is prophecy. So prophecy would have synonyms: prediction, forecast, and divination, right? Now there's a typo there, and sorry for that miss. Which is the word that is wrongly spelled? Can you give me the word in the chat box? Yes, do give me the word there which is wrongly spelled in this slide here. And let me also tell you that divination is a practice of seeking knowledge of the future or of the unknown. It could also be about something which is done supernaturally, right? But that is what is divination. So that's why it is a synonym of forecast and prediction and prophecy, right? Now, yes, Krishna, you are right. Forecast was the word there. Great. So you have an eagle's eye. You could find out the word. And Sukleen tells me that the answers are coming late. Not a problem at all. And yes, forecast is the word. Thanks a lot for that. And moving ahead, there's an E missing there, right? So yes. And let's move ahead to the next segment, which is again the fun segment for the day. And you all have been listening in to me intently. So you will remember all the words, the important words that we had in today's episode. And you need to find or locate all of those words in the letter maze that I'm going to show you, right? And let us do this quickly here. I'm going to give you only 1 minute. The clock is going to tick. And here is the letter maze. So you need to guess all of these words, or not guess actually, but locate the words in this maze here. And keenly observe what are the words that we have in this maze. It could be written diagonally, it could be even written horizontally or vertically, right? So one of the answers that Krishna gives me is world. That is correct. Okay, and think about what are the two worlds that we explored for this particular genre. Okay, there's magic come up there. Gloria Paul, thanks a lot for that answer there. Krishna gives me world, love, and drama. Science as well. Dafia says science and magic. We also have Varun give me magic. Science is another one that all of you have given me here. That is correct. So, all of these words we discussed in today's episode, right? Okay, so yes, those were the correct answers. Let me show them all of you here. World is the one that we had. And then the second one is drama. We also have love. And finally, we have science, right? So these were all of the words that we had: drama, love, science, and magic. Ignore that growth there. That's a wrong one. So we have magic, science, love, world, and drama. With that, we come to the end of this episode. So quickly, let's have a glance at what were the learnings that we had from today's interesting episode of Arcane Punk Fantasy Story. And first things first, we have the essentials. So yes, we saw what could be the characters in our story, the setting, and you have a whole array of settings that you can choose from, because we are talking about science as well as the magical world. So it could be laboratories or research centers, or even a forest where a lot of magic happens in a secluded area maybe, or you can talk about urban cities where both of these go hand in hand, right? And there is supposed to be drama in this genre here. And for the plot building pointers, we have the conflict. We can talk about how the government is going to be extra vigilant, going to take extra care of what is that, those inventions that people are going to make, right? And apart from that, we will also include institutions who are going to train people with all of these inventions, right? And apart from that, the last element that we have is the resolution, which is really going to be like tying the loose ends together and giving a resolution for the conflict that we had introduced into our story, right? So it's going to be a satisfying ending, and we can also give out a message to our audiences there, right? So with that, we come to the end of this episode here. I see a lot of bye bye messages here, and yes, we also have this project work as always. And just like I tell you always, take that first baby step, try writing a short piece, and then maybe you can develop that story idea further, right? So implement all the learnings from today and draft your first Arcane Punk fantasy story. Yes, and for tomorrow, I'm going to be back with a thriller and suspense genre. So meet you all tomorrow again at 6 p.m. India time. Stay happy and keep smiling. Bye bye.